This is Twit.
Let's start with the rebranding, because I think that's kind of what's top of mind right now. Had a big announcement last week that basically the Android brand, the logo, I mean, some of it's a little subtle, but some of it's not quite as subtle. The big changes integrating the bug droid into the logo. I guess talk about the desire to rebrand. When did you start kind of hearing about this happening? What was the motivation behind it?
You know, I think we probably started talking about it, let's say sometime last year. And for us, it's interesting. The Android brand came about not with a huge amount of thought, I would say, right? It was like a pretty rapid thing that came together early on, and we sort of did the minimum we could to sort of get started. That's actually like a theme of Android in general. Like, it's like, what's the simplest thing we can do to get started? And then it's like continual improvement after that. And we've tried to sort of live that on the Android platform itself and the product. And branding is it's the same thing with branding. It's like continual improvement, except that we haven't actually done much improvement. So we decided we would invest some time in it. And part of it was just also we were really sort of thinking about where we are 10 years in, 10 plus years in, how big Android's got, and we wanted to make sure it was globally relevant. And we were starting to get feedback that a lot of the dessert names are not globally, relatable. So, Android Pie is awesome. And of course, as many people know, we name our releases after desserts in alphabetical order. But Android Pie is, while it's a dessert in some countries, it's not a dessert in other countries. And so we were like, it wasn't perfect. And then we were starting to think about Q and all the different names we could come up with for desserts in Q, and they tend to be a little bit more exotic. What we were coming up with, just
a little bit, yeah. And
it just kind of reminded us. It was like, well, what's a good name that's globally relatable? And we were like, this is kind of hard. And that sort of kind of started off the discussion. One thing I just actually want to debunk is that there was a rumor that Q was too hard to name, so we came up with numbers. But I want to point out that left to my own devices, I would have called this thing Queen Cake. And I think Queen Cake is like a really good name. Like, I think it's like up there with honeycomb or lollipop or marshmallow.
Okay.
That's the Mardi Gras cake, correct?
Mardi Gras cake.
Yeah, with a little baby inside of it, right?
Queen Cake.
I thought it was King Cake. Is that?
Well,
I mean, there should be a spectrum of these cakes, but I just hadn't heard it called it.
I saw a picture of a Queen Cake and it looks really tasty. It sounds good.
I don't know. Google search for Queen Cake surfaces a Queen Elizabeth cake. A Queen Cake with whipped cream and jam filling recipe. I mean, honestly, on this show, we went through the gamut over the last couple of months of what possible Q desserts could be. I'm not sure we ever narrowed in on Queen Cake.
No.
That's a big missing
we forgot about
piece
that
of the puzzle.
Whoopsie.
I know, but I also think it's I think it would have been really good. Anyway, so I just want to debunk it. That was we had a good contender.
We had a deep bench.
We did a lot of options.
You needed a deep bench on letter Q.
But we wanted to come up with something that was that worked in all countries. Like Android's got so big, it's a global platform, and we wanted something that worked everywhere. And then we started thinking about numbers, and we're like, wow, numbers are cool. You can add them and you can subtract them and invert them. And
they're really flexible.
And the other thing that numbers do, which I think is an understated benefit, is they encode sequence information. So you can actually compare one number to another and see which one's later or not. Because people got confused. They were like, is lollipop newer than marshmallow? I don't know. So I'm being facetious, but I think numbers are just more universal. They make a lot more sense. So
yeah.
One thing we are doing, though, is we will continue to use desserts as code names internally. And that was kind of important for our engineering team and our product teams. Just we like having fun with
that was going to be my question.
We have to call it something. We have to call it something.
Wait, so internally, what is 10? Can you share that?
Queen Cake, right?
QT.
Quinstart.
QT.
Quinstart, yes. We asked because some of us have a bet and we need some of us need to pay out. So we're trying to make money off of this endeavor. Thank you.
I mean, our source code branch is called QT Dev.
That's right. If you look in AOSP, you can see all of the other names of the various branches that we've used as development branches. You go back in time and you see things like MNC. MNC is not an abbreviation of marshmallow. Cookie. It's a macadamia nut cookie. Right. We've always had the code name ever since, I guess, KitKat. We've had the code name for the code name.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep having the code name for the code name. We just won't have the code name.
Correct.
So it's a code name for the number, basically. So but so here's the question then: as you progress, will the next one be R? Will you continue the alphabet, or now is you can just be anything that you fancy?
Oh, no, we're definitely going to keep the lexicographic sorting. I think that's really important. I was just talking to Diane about it a little earlier about what we would name that the future branches.
Oh, yeah. We can't really sell it.
No.
Is that secret? Are codenames secret now? I don't know. Or do we tell people?
I think what we've done is we've taken the whole dessert idea and given it back to like the true super fans, the way that it was before we started actually making it part of our overall branding exercise. Like back in the Eclair days, like I don't think we ever got out there and said, Nexus One now with Eclair. Like that was just an internal thing. And so now we're back to that being for the listeners of this podcast.